Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. How is Allah's pleasure connected to pleasing one's parents? How is Allah's pleasure connected to pleasing one's parents? Subhanallah, how is it not connected to pleasing one's parents? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had linked the pleasure of Allah with the pleasure of one's parents. In a hadith in the Sunan of Ibn Majah, and I think it's also in the Sunan of Imam at-Tirmidhi, the hadith reads that رضا الرب في رضا الوالد وسخط الرب في سخط الوالد أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The pleasure of the Rabb, of Allah, is in the pleasure of the father and mother, of course. And the pleasure of Allah is in pleasing them. And then the displeasure of Allah is in their displeasure. Right? The displeasure of your Lord is in the displeasure of one's parents. Another way of looking at this is perhaps from the various verses in the Quran in which Allah Ta'ala states, for example, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Your Rabb, Allah, has decreed that you will not serve, you will not enslave yourself to anyone except Him alone, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then immediately after this, the most important, the most central philosophy in Islam, the most central belief in Islam is وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and Allah has decreed righteousness and goodness with one's parents. So there's no divorcing of the two. In Islam, it is a prerequisite. You can think about it in this way. It is a prerequisite to be good and righteous and kind and respectful and to serve one's parents as a means towards pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are so many narrations in this regard, but one more would perhaps be the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ ascends the mimbar in the month of Ramadan, or rather he ascends the mimbar and then he takes 3 steps, and at each step he says Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. And the Sahaba asked, Ya Rasulullah, we saw something of you today that we haven't seen before. You took a step, you said Ameen, you took a step, you said Ameen, and so forth. So the Prophet ﷺ said that Jibreel ﷺ came to me and he made 3 supplications, to which I said Ameen and he said Ameen. And those supplications were that anyone who reaches the month of Ramadan and is not forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may such a person be removed from the mercy of Allah, because it's something that's so easy to attain. And then they both said Ameen. And he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may anyone who hears your name, the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they do not send salutations upon you, may they be far removed from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, because it's something that's so easy to do, and it's so natural for a Muslim to do this, that if somebody doesn't do this, they should be cast out of Allah's mercy. And the third point was that anyone who either one or both of their parents reaches old age and they don't earn Jannah through those parents, let that person be severed from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because again, it's something that's so natural for a believer to do. If somebody is God-fearing, it's so second nature to go out of one's way for others, and top of that list would be one's parents, that such a person wouldn't be deserving of Allah's mercy because they were not merciful unto their parents. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. So there is no separation between pleasing the parents and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.